Recently, in an interview about the upcoming Justice League movie, producer Deborah Snyder, who worked closely with her husband, director Zack Snyder, on Batman vs. Superman, said that the lesson they learned from that film was, quote, "I think the main thing we learned is that people don't like to see their heroes deconstructed. I think that's hard because it's people we've grown up with and people we care about. They like seeing them in all their glory. Yes, people want to see heroes who are bright and glorious, not being dragged down to earth by politics and squabbling and backstories and tons of history with each other and, oh hey, look at how much money Civil War just made, everyone." Hello everyone and welcome to the first of a new series, ediTHORGIals. Yes, I know that name makes no sense, but I'm sticking with it. You see, this channel is dedicated to sharing our love for everything geeky. However, you can't love something without also forming some pretty strong opinions on it, and this will be the show in which I just pull out my little soapbox and rant like the angry fanboy baby that I am. Ha! Good luck calling me names in the comments now, I beat you to it! But today we're talking about this quote, about the producer and director of this film believing that the audience had a problem with Batman vs. Superman because they didn't like to see their heroes deconstructed. Now, when I heard that, I did a double take so hard I actually had to look up the definition of deconstructed, because if that's what she thought people didn't like about her film, then clearly I had no idea what deconstructed meant. But nope, deconstructed meant exactly what I thought it did. To break a character down in order to expose their internal workings so that they can be analyzed, to dissect or reinterpret them to see what makes those characters who they are. Or more literally, just simply to take them apart. And yes, part of that does include exposing their flaws, but it doesn't mean making them nothing but their flaws. Now, if you've followed this channel long enough, then you know that I had some rather strong feelings towards Batman vs. Superman. Roll clip.
I can't do this! I can't! I'm living a lie! I can't just sit here and pretend like everything's okay. I can't pretend like this movie didn't horrifically affect me in numerous ways.
So believe it or not, I have some pretty strong feelings about this quote as well. And before I continue, I want to make it clear. I am in no way attacking Deborah or Zack Snyder. I mean, heck, she might not even have meant what she just said. If anybody knows what it's like to say the wrong thing when you're in front of a camera, it's me. I can't tell you how many times I've been editing a video of mine and thought, I don't think that word means what I just thought it did. So I'm not going to point fingers at her. She might have misspoken. Plus, there's already so much negativity towards the Snyders that I don't want to come in here and add more to the pile. And if you've watched this channel, then you know I've already ranted long enough about Batman vs. Superman. I don't have to do it anymore. Although, spoiler alert, as someone who has already read the rest of this script, something tells me I'm going to end up doing it anyways. But I do have to address this quote because there are people out there who feel this way. Feel that people don't want to see their heroes deconstructed, treated more maturely. They don't want their heroes to be taken apart to see what truly makes them who they are, to see what makes them tick. And nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, some of the most successful and beloved superhero movies are complete deconstructions of not just those characters, but of much larger issues and sometimes of the entire medium itself. Take Batman Begins. That movie was a complete deconstruction of Batman and Bruce Wayne, where he comes from, why he is the man that he is, why a rich billionaire would dress up like a bat. Want to go deeper into his mind? Take what many are coming to consider the best Batman film ever, Mask of the Phantasm, where it delves into the burden of being Batman, of the pain it brings Bruce to feel like every night he must go out there to avenge his parents all over again. And this is one of the few interpretations of Batman ever to actually ask, what happens when his personal happiness comes in the way of his mission? Which one will he choose?
I know I made a promise, but I didn't see this coming. I didn't count on being happy. Please, tell me that it's okay.
Or switching over to the Marvel side, what about Spider-Man 2? You want to talk about a movie where they reinterpret a character to get to the heart of who they are? This film showed you what happens when you take someone whose entire routine is with great power comes great responsibility, and we see what happens when you take away the great power. But as I said, there are many ways to deconstruct a character. It doesn't always have to be a personal journey of discovery. Sometimes it's about deconstructing the message behind the character, examining the ideas that they represent that are much larger than any one figure. Take X-Men 2 for example. The X-Men have always been a metaphor for any group discriminated against, and in X2 they came out and openly compared them to the LGBT community.
We just didn't realize
We still love you, Bobby. It's just this mutant problem is a little...
What mutant problem?
I could keep going on. Almost all of the most popular superhero movies of the past decade have explored the mind and personalities of these characters to serve as a symbol for something greater, to serve as a message for something in the real world. War profiteering, Law and Order versus Anarchy. Okay, sometimes it's just for fun, I'll admit that, but my point is, people love to see their heroes deconstructed. Heck, they even love to see their superhero movies deconstructed to be metaphors for other superhero movies. Take The Avengers, for example. You might have thought that film was just pure popcorn fun, nothing more, but when you sit down and dissect it, it's pretty clear it's actually a commentary on the superhero movie genre as a whole, on how they were becoming too dark and brooding and edgy, and that sometimes what you need is old-fashioned colorful heroes to come in and act like actual superheroes.
Everything that's happening, the things that are about to come to light, people might just need a little old-fashioned.
Or look at Civil War, a movie where the UN came in and said, "Hey superheroes, we're kinda getting tired of you blowing things up." You don't have to dig too hard to realize that's a message about superhero movies as a whole, about how they all end with giant massive explosions and citywide destruction. And each of the films I listed off were praised and beloved by not just audiences but critics as well. Each of them were financially successful, and each of them proves that audiences want smarter superhero films with rich, deep characters. And sometimes they just want a popcorn film. Nothing wrong with that either. It's good to have a variety in your genre. But I don't have to keep arguing this. You're all smart. You all know this already. But if people do want to see heroes deconstructed, then why were they so negative on Batman vs Superman when they deconstructed their characters? Why did they have a problem with it in this film? Well, honestly, it's because they didn't deconstruct them, at least not well. Okay, listen, I know I said I was going to try not to rant and rave about Batman vs Superman again, but I can't help it. If I'm going to point out why this quote isn't correct, then I have to point out why this movie failed. You see, the point of deconstructing a character is to get to who they are, to show what their purpose is, what they represent, to reflect their strengths and weaknesses, not physically but mentally, to really dissect what makes them work and why they have stood the test of time. But what was the number one thing that you heard people say about this movie? Who are these people? Because those aren't the characters I know. You have a Batman who is so dark and jaded that he's flat out murdering people, sometimes one-on-one and other times setting them up so that other people will finish the job, and even people who have never read a Batman comic in their life know, yeah, killing is a no-no for Batman. And I know that they did that because they wanted to show a Batman who had been pushed to his limits. Show a Batman who has seen too much and been beaten down to that point that yes, he will go to that point to stop criminals. And yes, you can deconstruct a character through this. You can deconstruct a character by showing what happens to them when they reach their limit. However, as I said, the whole point of deconstructing a character is to get to the root of who they are. Whereas here, you didn't deconstruct him, you reimagined him to be something that he isn't. You want an example of what I'm talking about? Think about The Dark Knight, which is a film that people to this day praise as quite possibly the greatest superhero film of all time. I'm not going to say I agree with them, but I will say there is a reason why people say that. It is a damn fine film. Think about the end of that film, in which the Joker throughout this entire movie has been pushing Batman to his limits, pushing him to try and break him, and then at the end of the film, when Batman finally has the chance to kill him, he refuses. Because that's who Batman is. This is a film in which we see this character, this same character, broken down to the point in which he is at his limits, but we still get to the root of who he is. A guy who will not kill. I mean, aside from like 5 minutes later where he killed Two-Face, but that's a whole other thing. Let's not even worry about that. My point is, he didn't kill the Joker, okay? Or just look at Superman. I'm sorry, but the way they deconstructed him in this film makes me think they don't even understand the point of Superman. Superman is the ultimate symbol of hope, that figure who will never let you down, and yet in this film they turned him into an Ayn Randian symbol of power, and I'm not just picking that name out of a hat. No, Zack Snyder has admitted that he's a fan of Ayn Rand, a philosopher and writer who said that man should not sacrifice himself for others, that man should be concerned with their own happiness above that of others, and those who help others are basically sacrificial animals. I'm not just making that up, those are actual quotes.
But that is what in fact makes man a sacrificial animal. That man must work for others, concern himself with others, or be responsible for them. That is the role of a sacrificial object.
And when you realize that's where he's coming from, suddenly you understand why Ma and Pa Kent, the two people who instilled Superman with all his beliefs and virtues, were suddenly turned into this.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
You don't owe this world a thing.
You want to put a new spin on Superman and show him in a new light? Sure, that's fine, but you still have to understand who he is. You have to deconstruct him in a way that gets to the heart of his character. And again, this movie doesn't deconstruct him. It reimagined him into something that he isn't. And I know that some of you out there might be saying, yeah, but what he stands for just doesn't work anymore. The idea of someone totally morally good who is always there to save you doesn't work in our society today. And to that I have to say, you know he's fictional, right? Superman isn't supposed to be real. He's supposed to be a symbol of the best of what we can be, of what we can achieve if we work together and reach a hand out to those in need. That's the deconstruction of Superman, not whatever this is.
Stay down! If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
And in the end, I think on some level the people working on this film know that. That's why they're so defensive about this. That's why they didn't come out and say, hey, we screwed up, we just didn't understand these characters. It's why they said, you don't want your heroes deconstructed, because then the blame falls on you, the audience. It's your fault because you just wanted cardboard characters punching each other. You didn't want a character with dimensions. Heck, this isn't new. Does anyone remember before this movie even came out, Warner Brothers executives released a statement saying that they were afraid this movie wouldn't do well because they thought it would be, quote, too smart for Marvel audiences. Yeah, halfway through this movie, it became pretty clear to everyone, you guys knew this was bad and you were trying to cover your own hides. And in the end, I think that's what's bothering me the most about this quote. It's that if you enjoyed this movie, then great, good for you. I'm not going to try and take that away from you. You saw something in this film that spoke to you, and I'm glad that you have that. I, however, saw things in this film that upset me. I saw problems with this film that kept me from enjoying it, and that's fine too. However, when it comes to this movie, there seems to be a certain defensiveness to it that people honestly believe that if you didn't enjoy these movies, then there's something wrong with you. That if you thought it was bad, then it's just because you weren't smart enough to understand it. I've seen that all over the internet. I saw it in my store going all the way back to when Man of Steel came out, and this is just a continuation of that. Of this belief that the movie didn't screw up. The movie got it right, but the audiences, they're the ones who didn't get it. But there is something in this quote that I agree with. She said that people want to see their heroes in all their glory, and that's true. That's why everyone's favorite Batman moment is the fight in the warehouse. It's why people loved Wonder Woman so much when all she did was just run in and start kicking ass. Heck, it's why even though I had huge problems with Superman throughout this film, I wanted to stand up and cheer when he tried to actually fly Doomsday out of the city rather than just punching him there right in the most populated area. It's because these were their glory moments, moments that captured who they were. But this quote seems to imply that you can't deconstruct a character and show them in their glory, and nothing could be further than the truth. In fact, sometimes the best way to show a character in all their glory is through deconstructing them. I'm sure that by now many of you have been screaming at me that I don't know the definition of deconstructed because I've been talking about mostly like it's a positive while it can also be negative. In fact, it commonly means to break a character down to reveal their flaws or reinterpret them to show them as something lesser than what we have always known them to be. And yes, that can be part of deconstructing. But when you do that, again, it's for the point of showing who they really are, who they become when the chips are down, when they are broken down to their flaws, what type of a person comes through. And for a story about heroes, that's often the best time to show their true nature, that thing that we love about them. You remember my example of Spider-Man 2, how they broke Spider-Man down to the point where he quit, where he chose a normal life over responsibility, that thing that defined him? That's what made the moment when he ran in to save the kid in the fire so darn good, because it showed us that even when he had been put through the ringer, even when he was full of doubt, that the thing we loved about him still shone through. Whereas a Batman who is so jaded he doesn't care about blowing someone up, a Superman who is such an outcast that he looks burdened when he has to save people and even wonders if he should be saving them, that's not who these characters are. Again, that's not a deconstruction, that's just a full-blown reimagining of them. It would be like making a movie where Superman landed in Soviet Russia, or making a movie where Batman was a vampire. That's just not who they are. And one of the arguments I keep hearing over and over again is that you simply can't have a Superman movie that captures who he is, not in the world that we live in today. Not in a world that is full of such gritty and dark heroes. Can you really make a Superman movie that deconstructs him and his message, but at the same time still shows the very different world that we are living in today? Yes, yes you can, and I know that you can because they already did it. People are always surprised when I tell them that my favorite Superman movie isn't any of the live action ones, it's Superman vs. the Elite, a movie based on the comic What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, where a group of edgier heroes, darker heroes who murder, follow their own rules, believe in justice by their definition, suddenly took the world by storm. People wanted these darker heroes because they believed that that's what the world needed. They thought Superman's time had passed. They believed the symbol for peace and hope couldn't cut it in our world. But by showing them what a darker Superman would be like, he made the world realize that no, that's not what they needed. They didn't need angry, jaded, dark heroes. They needed Superman.
This isn't you. You don't do this.
I do now.
No! It doesn't have to be that way, Superman. You taught us that!
This movie completely deconstructed Superman. It beat him down. It filled him with doubt, had the world turn on him, showed what everyone believed to be his flaws, but then it turned all of that around to make us take a look inside of ourselves and proved why Superman is the hero that we need.
If you think I'll just go to jail and rot, you're living in a dream world!
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.
You can have that Superman. You can have that movie that deconstructs him, but at the same time puts him in a darker world. In fact, the darker the world, the more you need that Superman, the more you need that symbol of hope. And if you need any other proof, I'll leave you with this. It's a panel from All-Star Superman where Superman has to talk a woman off of jumping off of a building, and he stops her with a simple kind word and a hug to let her know that someone is there for her. This one moment deconstructs the very point of Superman, that in a darker, more depressed world where you feel like you just can't take the pressure and the stress, someone is there for you. Even if he's just a symbol, even if he's just an idea, that idea is there. That's a deconstruction of Superman. That's a superhero with a message, and that's a movie that we need, especially after this one. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you want to see more videos from me, including reviews, top 10s, and more editorials on everything from the world of geekery, whether it be comic books, video games, movies, or more, then make sure that you click that subscribe button. Also, if you guys could share this video around the web, that would be great because, every time I make a video about Batman vs. Superman, I kinda lose a chunk of my subscribers, so I could use the help on this one. But thanks again for watching, and make sure that you come back next time.